The One Nation, One Poll bill seeking to implement simultaneous elections in the Lok Sabha, the state assemblies, that was introduced in the Lok Sabha through a division of votes after the opposition members insisted on it. While 269 members have voted for it in its favour, but it's 198 members that are opposing it. This was the first time for the electronic voting system that was used in the Lok Sabha in the new Parliament House. The bill will now be officially referred to in a joint parliamentary committee. Several opposition leaders have asserted that the One Nation, One Poll bill went against the basic structure of the constitution and was anti-federal. The opposition says that the tenure of the state legislators cannot be subject to the tenure of the Lok Sabha. And Congress leader Manikam Tagore says that the division of votes today clears that the NDA doesn't really have the majority, the two-third majority that's needed in the House, and claims that it was a victory for the opposition. Meanwhile, Naveen Patnaik's party, BJP, has said that it will decide its stand on the issue of the simultaneous elections only after examining the details of the bill. The BJP has 7 MPs in the Rajya Sabha, and their support would also be crucial for the BJP to get the bill passed.
सर्वोच्च न्यायालय ने, माननीय सर्वोच्च न्यायालय ने केशवानंद भारती केस में 1973 में इस फेडरल स्ट्रक्चर के बारे में बात की है। उसमें 5-7 बिंदु उन्होंने तय किए हैं। बाद में और मामलों में भी कुछ बिंदु जोड़े हैं, कुछ विषय, जैसे जुडिशियल रिव्यू, फेडरल कैरेक्टर ऑफ द कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन, सेपरेशन ऑफ पावर बिटवीन लेजिस्लेचर, एग्जीक्यूटिव एंड जुडिशरी, सेक्युलर कैरेक्टर ऑफ द कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन, सुप्रीमेसी ऑफ द कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन। ये इस बिल में कहीं भी आघात नहीं हो रहा है, कुछ भी नहीं हो रहा है इसमें। जो बेसिक स्ट्रक्चर में कहीं भी कोई छेड़छाड़ नहीं की जा रही है। आगे मैं ये कहता हूं कि सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने केशवानंद भारती जजमेंट के साथ साथ वामन राव, एल चंद्रन कुमार ने कुछ सब्जेक्ट और जोड़े, लेकिन ये इससे कोई ना तो संसद की शक्ति में कमी आ रही है और ना कोई विधानसभा में शक्ति दी है संविधान, उसमें कमी आ रही है। विधानसभा में बहस के दौरान, नाउ यू हैव टू लिसन टू मी, संविधान सभा में बहस के दौरान यू हैव ऑब्जेक्टेड, सो यू हैव टू लिसन टू मी। संविधान सभा में बहस के दौरान 4 नवंबर 1948 को बाबा साहब ने क्या कहा? संघवाद का मूल सिद्धांत यह है, बाबा साहब का कोट है ये, आई एम कोटिंग इट। संघवाद का मूल सिद्धांत यह है कि विधायिका और कार्यपालिका की सत्ता केंद्र और राज्यों के बीच केंद्र द्वारा बनाए गए किसी कानून के द्वारा नहीं, बल्कि संविधान द्वारा ही बंटी होती है। क्या? यूनियन लिस्ट, स्टेट लिस्ट, कंकरेंट लिस्ट। हम किसी सूची में कोई संशोधन नहीं कर रहे हैं साहब। कैसे संघवाद पे चोट कर रहे हैं? हम नहीं कोई चोट कर रहे हैं। दूसरा, बाबा साहब ने कहा था भारतीय संघ राज्यों के बीच किसी समझौते का परिणाम नहीं है। ये बाबा साहब का कोट ही है कि भारतीय संघ राज्यों के बीच किसी समझौते का परिणाम नहीं है। राज्यों को फेडरेशन से अलग होने का अधिकार नहीं है। फेडरेशन एक संघ है और इसका स्वरूप अविनाशी है, कोई नहीं बदल सकता फेडरल स्ट्रक्चर को।
माननीय सदस्य बालू साहब ने कहा कि इसको जेपीसी को दे देना चाहिए। जब ये संविधान सुधार का विधेयक, संवैधानिक संशोधन जब कैबिनेट में चर्चा में आया, तब प्रधानमंत्री जी ने स्वयं मंशा व्यक्त करी थी कि इसको जेपीसी को देना चाहिए। इस पर विस्तृत चर्चा सभी स्तर पर होनी चाहिए। इसलिए मुझे लगता है कि इसमें सदन का ज्यादा समय जाया करे बगैर, अगर मंत्री जी कहते हैं कि इसको जेपीसी को सौंपने के लिए वो तैयार है, तो जेपीसी में सारी चर्चा होगी और जब जेपीसी के रिपोर्ट के आधार पर कैबिनेट इसको पारित करेगी, तब भी फिर से चर्चा होनी है।
I rise today on behalf of the Telugu Desam Party to express our unwavering support for the NDA's One Nation and One Election bill. Sir, our party's guiding force, Sri Nara Chandrababu Naidu ji, has always championed transformative ideas. TDP is deeply committed to nation-building initiatives such as Vikasit Bharat 2047 and aims to align them with Vikasit Andhra 2047, reflecting the true spirit of cooperative federalism. and a shared vision for progress and development. Sir, there are several advantages of one nation, one election bill.
I rise to oppose the introduction of the Constitution 129th Amendment Bill 2024 and the Union Territories Laws Amendment Bill 2024. Mr. Speaker, sir, beyond the 7th schedule of the Constitution is the basic structure doctrine. And that basic structure doctrine spells out that there are certain features of the Indian Constitution which are beyond the amending power of this House also. One of the essential features is federalism and the structure of our democracy. And therefore, the bills which have been moved by the Honourable Minister of Law and Justice absolutely assault the basic structure of the Constitution and are beyond the legislative competence of this House, and therefore they need to be opposed ab initio, and the introduction of those bills have to be stopped.
ये संविधान की मूल भावना को खत्म करके कैसे तानाशाही के रास्ते निकाले जाएं, इसके अलावा कोई काम ही नहीं बचा है। आखिर ये मनीष तिवारी जी ने कहा कहीं एक विधानसभा के चुनाव अगर कोई अविश्वास आता है, अगर बहुमत नहीं मिलता है, तो क्या पूरे देश का चुनाव कराओगे? पूरे देश का चुनाव कराओगे? और ये लोग एक देश एक संविधान एक चुनाव की बात करते हैं, जो लोग 8 विधानसभाएं भी एक साथ नहीं करा पाते हो।
Tenure of state legislative assembly simply depending upon the tenure of the House of the People. It is not a doctrine of pleasure. Mandate which has been given by the people of the country that state assemblies tenure will be depending upon the doctrine of pleasure of this House. How it can be? State government and the state legislative assembly are not subordinate to the central government or to the parliament itself. Therefore, by this process, the autonomy of the state legislative assembly is being taken away. That is ultra-virus. That is it's the basic structure of the Constitution. We don't have any value. Then Election Commission of India will decide everything. Till doomsday, a party cannot remain as a ruling party. One day it will be changed.
The simultaneous election would incur additional cost of 13,981 crores. In addition, 9,284 crores will be required for procurement of EVMs, VVPAT to meet the requirement of simultaneous election. The Parliamentary Standing Committee, in its 79th report in 2015, has concluded that, I quote, gaining consensus of all the political parties may be difficult and holding simultaneous election may not be feasible. I request the government can take up the matter with JPC so that it can be discussed there and bring back the bill to the House, sir. Thank you, sir.
Well, joining with me is Biju Janata Dal Rajya Sabha member, Mr. Sasmit Patra. Sir, today the One Nation, One Election bill has been tabled in the Lok Sabha, that is the lower house. What's your party's stand? Has the party decided to go ahead and support the government, or they are against it?
You see, the Joint Parliamentary Committee is now going to be seized with the matter relating to the One Nation, One Election bill. When the Joint Parliamentary Committee is going to examine it, after examining it, it's going to provide its recommendations. After the recommendations come, thereafter, it will again go back to the government. Then the government may make amendments in that bill. And the final bill that will come about, that will be the bill that we need to examine and then take a decision on. I believe it's too premature to take a call or a decision in this regard when all of these aspects haven't happened. At the appropriate time, our Honorable Party President, former Chief Minister Shri Naveen Patnaik ji, will take a decision in this regard. But let us wait for the Joint Parliamentary Committee to come up with its findings and for the government thereafter to act on those findings.
Mr. Patra, as far as the state of Odisha is concerned, we usually see simultaneous polls both for the Lok Sabha and for the state assemblies happening at a same time. Do you find any difference what the opposition MPs had been claiming or had been clearly giving their point of view that on one leader, one party, and one elections is something that the Bharatiya Janata Party want to conduct?
You see, Odisha has been having elections for the last 20 years at the same time simultaneously between the Lok Sabha and the Vidhan Sabha. And we have not really seen that a national narrative can overtake the state narrative. However, this One Nation, One Election bill suggests a lot more than just that. It suggests that if there is a government that goes away from power or loses its confidence in the House, then if it gets re-elected or again finds it will be only there for the remainder part of the term if there is a re-election or a midterm election. I think there are several such areas which are there in the bill that needs further scrutiny, and it's not as simple as probably just a simultaneous election taking place between the Vidhan Sabha and the Lok Sabhas.
Thank you so much for speaking to us. That was BJD Rajya Sabha MP Sasmit Patra speaking to NDTV, clearly saying that BJD will further decide what their move would be after being the part of the JPC that will be further scrutinizing the One Nation, One Election bill. This is Aishwarya Jain in NDTV.
Aishwarya joining us to get us more on this. Aishwarya, of course, the opposition there opposing the bill and the centre clearly not having the majority so far. Take us through what can really pan out as far as this bill is concerned, which has been introduced in the lower house.
Well, so far it is the Biju Janata Dal of the Odisha, and it is the YSRCP who had not mentioned the claims as far as what their stand is. They have been saying that they want to be a part of the Joint Parliamentary Committee that the government has suggested, and later they will be deciding as to which way they want to go as far as going with the government to implement the One Nation, One Vote, or against it. Certainly, it was, remember, in the lower house of the parliament today, when it marked a historic occasion when Union Law Minister Arjun Ram Meghwal tabled the One Nation, One Election bill. It was Home Minister Amit Shah who intervened between the discussion and stated that during the cabinet discussion, when the bill came up in the cabinet, it was Prime Minister Narendra Modi who was in a view that this bill should be sent to a joint parliamentary committee, and therefore the reason perhaps no discussion should be held in the Lok Sabha. But despite that, it was the Lok Sabha Speaker who gave platform to every political party, the speakers who had suggested as to what their party's stand is and why they want to oppose this bill. There are contentions, and the political leaders had made it very clear as far as the India bloc is concerned. Majorly, most of the political parties were against it. But under rule number 74, the discussion went on. And lastly, it was the division that was sought by the opposition MPs. And it was the Lok Sabha Speaker who admitted it for the members who voted for the One Nation, One Bill which was tabled for the introduction. As far as Union Law Minister is concerned, 269 votes were in favour and 192 votes were voted against. Now it would be the government who would be very soon deciding the Joint Parliamentary Committee, in which the members from both the Lok Sabha and from the Rajya Sabha will be the part of it, and they will be further scrutinizing, speaking to the stakeholders, which involves different political parties, also the state election commissions. And finally, this bill will be again be brought in the cabinet, which will be cleared. And finally, this bill will again come up in the Lok Sabha to be passed. And then the discussion will happen is something that the government sources have clearly revealed to us. But it has many hurdles because this needs at least 5 amendments, constitutional amendments, which requires 2/3 of majority. And the government is very much confident that they will pass this majority mark as far as the One Nation, One Election bill is concerned after having scrutinized by the Joint Parliamentary Committee.
Right. Thank you so much, Aishwarya, for getting us all those details. And to know more on this, we have Sajjan Kumar, political analyst. We also have Kartike Batra, visiting fellow C voter, joining us. Thank you so much for speaking with us. Sajjan Kumar, over to you first. In regard to 269 members who voted for this, but 198 are opposing it. The opposition, they're claiming its victory. The big question being, how will the government manage getting that 2/3 majority?
Precisely, I mean, about the feasibility and the possibility that the bill needs 2/3 of the majority of the House. And as of now, the Treasury benches, I mean, they do not have the kind of number. So certainly, the implementation of the bill at this juncture doesn't seem a realistic scenario. But nevertheless, the bill is not just about the feasibility aspect. It is a part of the long-term debate which has been happening about gamut of the measures that should be taken about electoral reforms, reforming the electoral processes. And in that background, if you see, this is a very good kind of initiative wherein at least the Lok Sabha has debated about it. Then it is already decided that it is going to be sent to the JPC, Joint Parliamentary Committee, and thereafter there is a possibility that within that, when all aspects and checks and balances and consensus will be taken into account, some sort of a consensus may be expected. Though as of now, it doesn't seem to be a scenario wherein the Treasury benches can have the number and the bill can be passed. But nevertheless, the JPC gives an opportunity for the Treasury benches also reaching out to the opposition, and therefore some sort of a consensus with the amendments, if the Treasury benches accept, is a possibility. Because mind it, it's not just a BJP's initiative. This is a long-held, for the last 4 decades, this is a debate that has been happening by the Election Commission and governments of the day. And therefore, we do expect that if some of the concerns and anxiety that is being addressed besides the political posturing, if that can be taken into account, then certainly still there are parties like BJD and others who can come on board, and still the required majority, that is the 2/3, can be achieved in Lok Sabha. In Rajya Sabha, that is more doable compared to the Lok Sabha. So as of now, it seems a difficult case, but it's not something that is completely unfeasible and undoable. Yeah.
Right. We also have Mr. Batra with us. It is something that was part whether to align the elections. It's been part of the BJP's manifesto as far as 2024 polls were concerned. It's got the backing of the Prime Minister, but it faces opposition from parties across the board. Of course, we have BJD sitting on the fence in regard to this. But, the opposition there saying that this is going to cost a lot of money, while Eknath Shinde has gone on to say that this will actually end up saving money. Your thoughts?
Thank you. I think it's this topic is really fascinating because there are very compelling competing arguments both for and against this kind of a proposal. What's good is that we're discussing it, right? So, top of the head, what comes to mind when you think of one nation, one election? Right now, we are in a situation where elections have become events which happen every year, because of which the media attention is focused primarily on political games. People's minds are also occupied with the question, who's winning? And we get very little time to discuss policies and the impact of daily governance for which elections are held in the first place. So the entire discourse is too political and very less on what these politicians are supposed to do when they come to power. So that's one, that if you have one nation, one election, does that free up the intellectual bandwidth within the country to discuss these questions in a better way? The other, of course, is that governments will also prioritize policy making over politics, probably at a larger scale, because they won't be pushed by elections. On the other side, the compelling argument is that when you have elections every year, there are these checks and balances which force governments and political parties to pull up their socks if they are lagging behind. If you make it a once in 5-year event, there is nothing in between in that period that voters have to either punish or reward politicians. So in that regard, and especially we have to understand that we are a country where we think that elections are the only way of fixing political accountability. And other institutions of fixing political accountability are not that mature. In fact, they have degenerated over the last few years.
Right.
So therefore, the importance of these staggered elections is also to...
Yeah, Mr. Kumar, of course, from what the opposition is really saying is that this will empower the president to seek the Election Commission's recommendation to topple elected governments, while the powers of the Election Commission is quite limited for now. Your thoughts?
No, but that's more of a political stand, because mind it, Article 327 clearly kind of gives a legislative competence to the parliament. So therefore, parliament has the power to decide as to how the matters pertaining to elections of the state legislatures can be discussed. So therefore, it is well within the constitutional right. About President taking the advice of Election Commission, as was pointed out by Congress member Gaurav Gogoi, when President is, as per him, only expected to take the advice of the Council of Ministers. And this is some completely kind of a political line rather than going into the granular details of the Constitution, because when it comes about the constitutional feasibility and doability and desirability, Election Commission has a constitutional post. It is not just a statutory post. It is a constitutional post created by the Constitution. Therefore, it is well within the domain of constitutionality. Second,
but the opposition there is asserting that this has gone against the basic structure of the Constitution and is anti-federal.
See, basic structure is as you call in Hindi, Hari Katha Ananta. Because when you say that basic structure is about the values in preamble, it's about federalism. Now, they do not take you too far. I mean, you have to go into the particular aspects. Which aspects of federalism or which aspects of legislative competency or which aspect of kind of constitutionalism is it violating? I mean, clearly India is not a confederation like the US wherein the parts constituted the whole. It is not a federation in a classical sense where the union and the states have complete parity. It is a union of a state wherein union as per the Article 1 has a complete power to, I mean, even to change the boundaries of the state. So therefore, one has to see that within the constitutional parameter, all these allegations are more like a polemic rather than the kind of constitutional reality.
Right. Thank you so much, Mr. Kumar and Mr. Batra, for joining us. The opposition there in chorus saying that this is a path to dictatorship and that it will cost a huge amount of money, and which is why, they are opposing this bill. Well, thank you for speaking with us this very afternoon.